online and we have our guest from OSRAM connected, so we are very happy to welcome Anna Sangalli and Andrea Köhler to this meeting. I think we have now the attenders that are going to connect, so we just wait maybe 1 minute to let all the people to reach the webinar. And okay, just to start, I thank again OSRAM, and today webinar is about YouTube sanitation technology, and especially I think we have some specific information about the AirZing Pro products, but over kind of OSRAM portfolio. And this webinar is in the frame of the webinars of Luce and Veneto that we carry out for our companies to give more technical information about some strategic technologies for the creation of new products for our companies. Especially today we are talking about UV tube, because in the last year, because of the pandemic, more and more companies are using this technology to add a sanification effect to the lamps. But for sure we move from traditional lamps to UV lamps. So we are not talking about lighting, we are talking about more specific technological field with some lack of norms for the moment, but we are more and more standardization fortunately in the last year. So we really wait from OSRAM to have some news about the process, to have this standardization process to use this kind of source. And for sure we ask all the companies to collect more information they can from the webinar, and for sure we collect your question for Andrea that we give we answer, and we ask Andrea to answer at the end of the webinar and about this subject. We registered the webinar, so for your colleagues of the companies that cannot take part today to the meeting, we can share, and maybe we ask Andrea if you can share the slides or a part of the slides that Andrea let us to distribute after the presentation, but we'll give you more information after the meeting of today. So we have one speaker, so Andrea Köhler. We thanks in advance, and I think we have already a company online, so we ask Andrea to start. We scheduled 2 hours, but I think 1 hour and a half could be okay with the questions. So as we finish, we stop. But if you have a very huge quantity of questions, we have Andrea said us that I can stay with us 3-4 hours, so no problem after up to dinner.
No problem. Yeah.
No problem about that. Okay, thank you again, and I give the floor to Andrea for the presentation, and thank all the companies to be with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Then I think I have to share my screen. Is it right? So?
Perfect.
Is it perfect? Good. Yeah, and you can hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Then, yes, thanks again, Alberto, and thanks for being here. And welcome to this kind of training, seminar, whatever you call it. I mean, of course, let me introduce myself. I'm Andrea Köhler. I'm product manager within OSRAM for airfield medical and UV light sources. I'm located in Berlin, and since 20 years with OSRAM now. Especially, let's say, in the last year, we all had a challenging time, and we still have a challenging time based on the COVID-19 situation. And it was a crazy year last year, and hopefully this year, and we have signs that we have, let's say, improvements here in our personal situation. due to the higher vaccination rate. Yeah, I think there are certain releases now a little bit different from country and region to region. But I think we mostly on a good way. But one thing I think which came up in the last year based on the corona situation, let's say a virus which was new, was the UVC technology. I mean, this is, let's say, not a new technology, you know, of course, but especially in the last year, it came into the focus again for a broader range of applications. Everybody was asking, what is UVC? Can it destroy the COVID-19 or this, can it, let's say, influence the situation here in a better way? And there we had a tremendous business with our light sources, UVC light sources in the last year. And I think still, and that's why we're doing this presentation today, there is certain education still necessary for you, but also for your customers to explain them why should we use UVC in a certain device. What is the, let's say, benefit of UVC technology? Is it safe? Are there any regulation or let's say standard which we can prove here that this is an safe device here from this and this company? And how can we calculate how many fixtures we need? How many UVC sources we need? I think hopefully I can answer some of your questions today. I mean, that's why it's not only about our product range. Of course, we will also introduce that to you, but certain educational slides are also necessary. And that's why, let me first start with OSRAM in general. I mean, the name OSRAM, the brand OSRAM is more than 100 years very well, let's say, established in the industry, and especially in the lighting applications. And of course, OSRAM is, how can I change the slide now? Sorry, I cannot change my slide. Why not? Can you still see my? Okay. Hopefully you can see my presentation here. As I said, first of all, let me go into a few details about OSRAM. I mean, OSRAM, you know it already, I think, let's say, is not so much more focused on general lighting, though we made a carve out a few years ago that all the general lighting, let's say, applications and products went to a new company. Though we are focused on industrial and professional customers, we are focused on mobility, well-being and health, on connection, safety, security, which has not obviously to do something with visible light, but also with sensors, with photonic, with, let's say, invisible light, and also UVC belongs to that. Though we are really, OSRAM is focused on mobility. That means on autonomous driving, safe travel, traffic management. We still have one business unit for automotive lighting. We have focus on safety and security, for cybersecurity, public lighting, well-being and health. So that means also horticulture applications, purification. Then another focus is connection, entertainment, virtual classrooms, warehouse 4.0. That means our areas of expertise are mobility, safety and security, connection, and well-being and health. Though this is, let's say, a change in the setup of OSRAM, let's say, compared to, let's say, 10 years ago. That means OSRAM empowers autonomous driving, OSRAM equips smart cities, OSRAM, let's say, also enlightens digital communications. So that means OSRAM in general enable people all over the world to see, to communicate, to travel, and to live better. That is, let's say, our, target. I mean, in total, OSRAM, more than 25,000 employees in more than 120 countries present, and let's say last year 4.1 billion euro revenue here. And yeah, and that means the main business parts are automotive, OSRAM semiconductor with LED solutions and single LEDs. And one is, let's say, what we call OSRAM Digital, where we are part of. Let's say this is mainly the business for solutions, let's say, horticulture, if we're talking about complete solution business, horticulture, energy saving, environmental optimization, and asset tracking. We have smart street lighting, and what we can call is emotional lighting for buildings and so on. Then on the connectable SSL component business, we have also companies like Clayparky, also located in Italy, and ADB, especially for high-end entertainment applications. And then we have what we call ENI, and entertainment and industry, traditional lamp components, but on a highly professional level with certain discharge lamp, video projection lamps, cinema lamps, and so on. One part in this entertainment industry is, let's say, the entertainment part with all the light sources, light fixtures for entertainment, for, let's say, entertainment for concerts and so on, and that we call, let's say, concert lighting with different light sources, including LED complete solution, including complete fixtures here with Clayparky. And also we are focused with entertainment on studio TV and film application, from shooting a film in a studio or in a TV studio. You still need light, whether it's traditional, whether it's complete LED solutions. We can provide this for stage and theater. We have lighting solutions available, but also until the cinema projection. Yeah, so most of the cinemas still using traditional XPO lamps, even in the, let's say, digital projectors. The one and only light source is or the main light source is still an XPO, a discharge lamp, also produced by OSRAM within entertainment industry group. For show and event lighting, for architectural lighting, we have solutions here. And as I said, we have Clayparky and Trex and EQ as, let's say, part of the companies with complete solutions or fixtures. And then coming from entertainment to industrial, we also, since many years, we have experience in offering highest quality solutions here in this range, tailored to the needs of certain customer applications. Here, as an example, we also have Fluence as part in our company, who's doing light for plant growing, more yield with less use of water, fertilizer, cultivation area. This is, I think, the goal here. And therefore, with the light solutions from Fluence, we can increase 25% increase in output, 50% increase in efficiency, 75% reduction in land use, and 60% reduction of water and fertilizer. This is also the result of our activities here in the industry range. As I said, based on LED solutions, we provide light solutions for horticultural, for vertical farming, greenhouse, research, and home. And of course, and this is, let's say, the focus for today, is UVC purification. We are dealing with that more than 15 years with a complete portfolio within OSRAM. Main application was always purification of water air surfaces. That means for home, business, industrial application, water purification, air surface. And of course, especially due to the pandemic situation the last year, the air and surface purification cleaning application field was grown or exploded. Therefore, a lot of new customers came here into this game, new applications, new products came here. So that was, let's say, a huge increase in workload last year, but also in revenue at the end. And also we providing complete light sources for airfield lighting, for runway, for taxiway, for approach lighting. Everything based on the halogen technology was installed on airports is also coming from OSRAM here. Then we have also special industrial application with high intensity and maximum precision for semiconductor industry. Here is an example for the production of for microwavers here. And here also a mercury short arc lens is used to really project the very tiny structures of the ICs here on the wafer. And then we have also light sources for medical and scientific devices based on traditional light sources for surgical lighting, microscopy, medical, dental, and so on and so on. Also projection, of course, there's less demand because this is also going into big screen TVs here, but still there's projection out there with our PVEP labs for classroom, for business, for home application. And we have also with our UVA lamp range a portfolio here, especially for insect traps in certain restaurants, hospitals, wherever it is required. And though this was, let's say, a short overview about the company, what we are doing. So as I said, we are part of entertainment industry here within digital of OSRAM. And as I said, let's say the focus in the last year here, especially in my workload as a product manager for UV, was really UVC with all the requirements and questions which came up, especially in the last year. So that's why I prepared a presentation for you today. And I want to give you also a little bit update about the situation here in the market, what kind of fixtures are in the market, what is required, what is the benefit between LED and the UVC lamp here from OSRAM. And hopefully I can answer you some potential questions, because of course at the end you can anyway ask something, but I want to give you an update about the UVC market, about technologies, products and application fields, also about the UVC safeties, about products and solutions from OSRAM, and of course about the AirZing Pro 5030, 5040, some, let's say, applications or devices we provided already in the last year. First of all, I mean, for everybody it's clear, or maybe it came up especially in the last year, that I mean there are a lot of bacteria and viruses almost everywhere. I mean, most of them are not really hazardous, or what I would say, but you always have bacteria, virus in the air, on certain surfaces, in the water, and we saw, especially with the pandemic situation and the COVID situation in the last year, really deadly, and therefore solutions are required to reduce the kind of virus. We actually also differently contaminated with germs. 22% of the floor sites were positive. For example, for resistant Staphylococcus bacteria and viruses. This was always, let's say, a topic in the hospitals, and therefore in certain regions, more or less, UVC was always used. Yeah, but still, especially in this pandemic situation like last year, and still we have that, and highly highly effective method of purification is needed in hospitals, but not only in hospitals. Yeah, we know, especially, let's see, traditional grocery store shopping carts have 36 times more bacteria than a bathroom doorknob, for example. Yeah, 80% of the bacteria types found were considered harmful, antibiotic immune, and could cause illness in humans. Yeah, and therefore there is, what can we do against that? Of course, there was always a method with chemical purification. Yeah, but there's another method, and this is UVC. But first of all, what is the relation to COVID-19 at the moment? Of course, we all know, and that was at the beginning of a pandemic situation, the last year, we have to avoid direct contact, wash your hands, clean surfaces. As you remember, in the last year, let's say February, March, when everything starts, we had the peak in China already. Then it came, of course, also to Italy. Then it came also up, okay, we have to keep social distance. We have to wear face masks. Then, of course, it came up, okay, there are certain other methods where they multiply the viruses and where the people get ill. Yeah, these are what we called aerosols. Yeah, and therefore the requirement of ventilation indoor or stay outdoor came up. Yeah, so first of all, clear is this, there's the scientific proof confirms that SARS-CoV-2 virus causing the COVID-19 disease in the is airborne. So aerosols are, this is, I think we are all in common with that, are the major route for infection. Avoiding direct contact, keeping distance remain important, but it's not enough to avoid contamination. Yeah, let's say ventilation or equivalent for all indoor areas is important. Yeah, I mean, of course, you can open the window, you can get fresh air in, you have to throw out the old air, but it's not always possible. Yeah, in UV, that's why UVC as an let's say technology with this wavelength is a major tool to increase let's say the ventilation rate, to improve the ventilation rate. But the problem with increased ventilation is always, and this ventilation we mean, okay, bringing fresh air inside, make always an exchange between old and fresh air. It could be impractical and very costly. The air quality itself is typical managed by increasing ventilation rates. We express this, and this is also an established wording in the last year and this year, air changes per hour, shortly ACH. So how much air you should change per hour in a room to be again safe. Let's say each air change in total reduces the virus concentration in the air, and this was measured, and this is, let's say, a summary of all the measurements by 63%. Ventilation rate requirements are already part of building guidelines. Increasing ACH reduces the transmission risk of airborne viral particles. I think this is also a result from all the, let's say, experiences in the last year, from all the recalculations and tests that was made. However, let's say the infrastructural and operational costs associated with systems upgrades are high when possible and will cause discomfort, noise, draughts, etc. Let's say recent studies showed an increase in fresh air supply to meet recommended indoor guidelines would more than double the energy costs when operated with conventional HVAC systems, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. That's why if you include in the whole story of ventilation, UVC technology, you will save not only cost, you will also increase the purification rate and the time, which is necessary to get clean air in the room. The opportunity from UVC is always increasing equivalent ventilation. It is well documented that UVC disinfection reduces exposure risks by inactivating virus and other pathogens. Yeah? So we normally translate the this into the UV dose, which is equivalent to air changes per hour, with no discomfort and low infrastructural costs. For virus disinfection with ACH more than 10, this is recommended from the WHO. Conventional ventilation system cannot achieve this. UVC can. This means the ability to increase occupancy, residence time, and reduce shared spaces, downtime between users. Work towards simple requirements, which incorporates the space volume, existing ventilation, and localized UVC solutions. Increase energy saving with compliance. Certain studies shows UVC could reduce buildings' HVAC energy demand by up to 50% and allow for localized solutions. I mean, this is something which was partly known before, but the problem with air purification in the years before Corona was always how to measure, how to prove this, how to convince people about that. And this, let's say, was the good thing of this whole pandemic, that there are more and more tests was made and we came to this kind of regulation, this kind of standards here for the ventilation of rooms here. And as I said, UVC light can help a lot. Why can UVC light help? And what in general is UVC light? Most of you know that. Maybe for some it's only a repeat here, but still it's a non-visible light and has higher energy than the visible light. And it's situated on the electromagnetic spectrum between visible light and X-rays. We classify into 3 wavelength ranges, each having different applications. 315 to 400 nanometer, we normally talking about UVA, and this, what I mentioned, especially for insect traps, for detection of forgeries, drying inks and paints, it's still used here. Also here, the transition to UVA LEDs is much higher than UVC. I come to this later, but still they are also conventional in the market. But this is general, the wavelengths we're talking about. Then we have this wavelengths between 280 and 315, mainly for sun tanning and medical therapy. And then we have this 100 to 280 nanometer, which is in total the wavelengths for UVC. And this is mainly for disinfection. Let's say the really germicidal range is between 250 and 280 nanometer. That's why the good thing, and that's why it's so effective regarding bacteria and viruses, it does not exist in our atmosphere compared to some percentages of UVA, of UVB, of course. But they normally, viruses and bacteria are not used to have to get UVC light. And this is, let's say, the advantage we have here with the UVC. How it works, I mean, it's in general, the DNA and the RNA contain, let's say, the generic information specific to the species, information that is transmitted during the reproduction of these cells. The photochemical reaction created by the absorption of UVC leads to the creation of distortions in the DNA and the RNA, making the replication of the microorganisms ineffective or impossible. This results in cell death or the appearance of mutants that are non-viable or unable to reproduce and can't cause disease or spoilage. So this is the advantage we have with this whole UVC technology and with the special wavelengths. How about the germicidal effectiveness? Not all wavelengths of UVC are equally effective for the destruction of pathogens. Let's say the peak wavelengths for the destruction of DNA and RNA is around 265 nanometer, which you can see here in the red line. And this is very close to the peak emission of mercury, which is around 254 nanometer for discharge lamps. And this is, let's say, this blue line here. The mercury lamps radiate at 85–90% of the theoretical maximum germicidal efficiency. So that's why, let's say, our lamp portfolio with an OSRAM, with our low power discharge lamps, and let's say using this advantage or this peak emission of the mercury inside, and to have this peak here, this energy on this, especially on this point here. And this helps to destroy the DNA, the RNA of pathogens. UVC allows consistent performances. How you need to destroy a certain pathogen in the air, on the surface, in a certain time. We call it that is the energy which is required to make that. The dose is the quantifiable, allowing for reliable and consistent disinfection. I mean, there are two important factors which then determine required for the inactivation. One is the intensity of the radiation. Let's mean how much energy on a certain surface I have here. What is the power of the lamp or something like that? The UVC power, etc. And what is the duration of the exposure? How long will I'm able to, let's say, exposure this certain surface? Yeah. And we have with this, let's say, well-known formula, maybe well-known, not always, but well-known now in the meantime. We can calculate this for the air, for the water, and the surface disinfection. The dose accumulates. It does not need to be continuous. Air treatment should consider always a recirculation. Though, as you can see, always UVC dose, how much energy, millijoule, on a certain square meter is required, and this is always here it's a matter of the radiant flux here, how much milliwatt is coming out of my light source and which cross-section area it will be exposed and what is the exposure time. Though this is all, I mean, this is of course the intensity, and with this formula you can, let's say, calculate the dose which is required, or based on the dose which is required, you can, let's say, calculate with a given UVC wattage, with a given area, for instance, exposure time. Yeah? Though this will help here, and also OSRAM has on the website also calculation tools for certain wattages, whether it's AirZing 5030, 5040, or for certain UVC lamp types. And here you also can calculate what is my distance, what is the dose which is required to destroy a certain bacteria and virus, and then you can also calculate quite easily on this tool the exposure time which is required. We know, and of course you know already, there are certain UVC energy sources in the market here. Let's start with the mercury lamps, where is the focus here, and also in our portfolio. Mercury lamps, let's say low power mercury lamps in different shapes, single or double-ended, from 4 watt to 95 watt. The pro of these kind of light sources, and that's why we were so successful in the last year, and also we expect a growth in this mercury lamp market for UVC in the next years, is because we have the highest energy efficiency. We have the highest UVC power, which is necessary for certain application. The lamps itself are long life, we talk, and reliable, we're talking about 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 hours lifetime. It's a proven technology. There are a lot of things existing already, also supply, let's say, ECGs, CCGs to operate the lamps, and it's quite easy to apply in systems. And of course, the cons is, I mean, there's tiny mercury dose inside. I mean, I come to this later, we're talking about 2 milligrams, 4 milligrams, but still it's mercury inside. It's not banned also due to the special application regulation here within the EU. These lamps will exist also for the next years here, but still it's mercury inside. That's why, of course, LED coming into the game here. And also here for the LED side, and normally everybody would expect, I mean, there must be a huge transition to LEDs already. It's not, because we're talking about here different production processes, more challenges in the performance, in the output, etc. That's why the UVC transition in the UVC business is still quite low. Nevertheless, of course, due to the situation in the last year, a lot of different manufacturers of LEDs, UVC LEDs, improved their speed here for new solutions, including OSRAM with OSRAM Semiconductor, who's doing the LEDs in-house. It's of course, it's a small light source. It's mercury-free. Let's say it's flexible to build arrays of different dimensions, but still there we're talking about the lowest UVC efficiency, highest energy consumption, and it only exists in small powers. Yeah? And then there is already also mentioned here, and maybe you heard about that, they called excimer lamps, a pulsed lamp here with 202 nanometer radiation, which is known that you have you're safe, it's safer for skin and eyes, and it's mercury free. But nevertheless, also this technology has lower efficacy versus mercury. It can produce ozone, which is toxic, and I would say it's an emerging technology. And so far, even if it's from other manufacturers promoted, there's no official, let's say, approval from authorities to use this in in occupied rooms. Yeah, they're working on this, of course. But let's say compared with mercury lamps, I mean, of course, there is a disadvantage. That's an open-faced mercury lamp application. It's always, let's say, not good for human skin and eye. I will come to this later. But at the end, it's not 100% proof for the 202 nanometer technology. They're working on it, but even then, if they get an approval for this technology, and we also take a look into this technology, it's not unknown for us, but commercially, we do not think that it will be a long-lasting trend here. We rather go into the LED technology for this, even for this nanometer range. Again, compared energy, if you compare energy efficiency, mercury lamps convert 25 to 50% energy into UVC. This is a big value here. The UVC LEDs only 2 to 5%. This is quite less here, and this makes especially the use of UVC LEDs in typical applications to purify big rooms, to install it in a air purifier, to install it in an open air surface purifier, to make it as an upper air device for bigger rooms, makes it very, very costly, and it makes no sense at the moment to use that here. The spectral efficiency, the mercury, as I said, has a very narrow spectrum at 253.7 to be precise here. Entire spectrum has 85 to 90% gammacidal efficiency. LEDs have a much broader spectrum. The average gammacidal efficiency typically is 40 to 70%. From the lifetime, it's comparable between mercury and LED. It's a similar loading. As I said, we're also talking about 9,000 and 10,000 hours lifetime, average lifetime for mercury lamps, and the LED is also in the same side here. Of course, for optical control, or let's say LEDs are better to create precisely defined beams. And of course, mercury is better at showing more UVC over wider areas. So this is, let's say, the main difference here. And that's why the transition rate in total in the market is quite low. I can't give you a number, but I think it's less than 10%. It will grow, definitely. And if the LEDs coming to especially if you have start mass production, then of course they're coming to a lower price point, and they're working on higher efficiency for the single LEDs. And let's say in 5 years, the situation could be different. But up till now, I think there's only one efficient solution, which is the mercury discharge lamps here. And of course, I don't have to repeat this. It's really proved, and also researchers of, for instance, from the Boston universities found out that UV light has the ability to eliminate the coronavirus. And I think this is the basis for all the further slides here and for further discussion. This is also clear. And also UVC light eliminates at least also 2 other coronaviruses that are near relatives of the COVID-19 virus, SARS-CoV-1 and the MERS-CoV virus as well. So, I mean, this was, let's say, a basic information about technology, pros and cons here. Now let's go into the fixtures. What are the different types of fixtures into the market? Of course, you know it already, but it's always too good to see what is the benefit here, or what kind of application can be used. First of all, we're talking about contained UVC light systems, of complete closed light system. That means the disinfection itself occurs within a closed, contained space, using a hidden lamp fixture. I mean, this is clear. We know about the safety risk of open UVC light, but if you put it into a closed system where almost no UVC light is coming out. Only the UVC light is being used for, let's say, the air which is coming into the fixture. Then it's very efficient. That means air is drawn into the luminaire using a fan. The air will be disinfected by the UVC lamp, then expelled. It's totally safe due completely. It contained UVC lamps. Even unskilled users can easily install it. And this I also can tell you, for the safety standard, for the safety regulation, there are clear limits how much UVC light is allowed to come out of these kind of closed fixtures, and it's almost zero. Yeah, so that's why I remember in the last year there were a lot of, especially from Asian countries, a lot of UVC fixtures in Amazon, all the online platforms, which horrible safety standard and so on. This is no longer allowed, and therefore, when you want to get the CE certificate for new fixtures, you have to you have to ensure that you always use the latest UVC standards here. And of course, this closed air cleaning systems are ideal for the use where low ceilings or smaller rooms do not permit upper air installations. Exists mainly also in ceiling panels, often with lighting, and of course also mobile floor standing devices are in the market or can be used as an air cleaner. Of course, I think I do not have to repeat, room is sucked in and clean air is coming out. And also a point is here, I mean, there are clear, or let's say only filter systems in the market. There are UVC systems in the market, sometimes both. The UVC light in total neutralizes the virus and bacteria, so reliable. The device and UVC device is almost maintenance free, as I said, up to 9,000 hours lifetime, energy efficient, eco-friendly. I mean, filter systems, they are effective against viruses with filter level each 13 to each 14. I mean, of course, it's always required frequent maintenance. It can collect infectious germs. That's could be a disadvantage. And you always need, in order to clean the same air volume as a pure UVC light, you have to use a stronger fan, and this makes in certain fixtures, it makes it more loud and also more ineffective. Yeah. So if you really need a noiseless or a UVC cleaning device without or with low noise, the UVC-based cleaning systems are always preferable here in this case. Then, of course, and in principle, our AirZing 5040, 5030 belongs to this group. There are this, let's say, exposed UVC light system. That means open face, which is used, of course, also for the convectional air which is in the room, but also for surfaces, but always without people in the room. Yeah, and that means mainly they are ceiling mounted. They have direct irradiation to the air and surface. They are also used in sealed cabinets for disinfecting objects, like here this example for face masks, hairdresser tools. And as I said, not suitable for operation in the presence of people, animals, or indoor plants. It must be used with multiple safety systems to prevent accidental UVC exposure. For instance, our safety sensors applied to the 5040, 5030 UVC AirZing Pro, which automatically shut off the UVC light when somebody is moving, when somebody's in the room. It has always a limited effect due to shadows, especially on rough texture surfaces or micro shadows. I know there are certain robots now into the market, which moving, especially main applications in hospital, to go in areas where normally you have from the upper air a shadow. That could be also an application field for open face fixtures. Yeah. And there is another product group, let's say, which is a combination of open face fixtures and on air fixtures. We call it upper air disinfection. It's an effective technology for air disinfection of indoor spaces. I mean, you here see one example for an upper air device. It's a simple addition to existing rooms with sufficient width and ceiling height. Luminaires are mainly on the walls or ceiling, and they shine a narrow beam of UVC above the head height. So that because of course there must be ensured that no UVC light is coming down to people walking there. And this using, let's say, the natural convection currents of the air, and due to the circulation of the air in these bigger rooms, there is a constant air purification here. We saw that in Germany. Here we have several supermarkets already installed with this kind of devices. I know that's at the moment also very popular in US to use in these big rooms, this kind of upper air devices, which, let's say, reflect the UVC indirectly into the direction of the ceiling. That means the infected air is continually sanitized each time it passes through the UVC rays. And there's qualified installations, of course, necessary. But at the end, it's safe for operation and with people inside, animals and plants. But this is, let's say, also something. And then, of course, another method is to use UVC technology, UVC light sources, lamps in each rack systems for heating, for existing heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. We have a lot of examples and discussions and calculation we made with customers in supermarkets. How can we equip and how many lamps we have to equip in our existing HVAC system, in our existing air conditioning system. This is also very popular. We have also discussions with OEMs who completely manufacture this and install this, and they want to equip their system with UVC, as you can see here, in a modular way. And there's always the question, how much air will be cleaned in a certain period? What is the room size for the required rooms here? How much dose I need? How much lamp I need for my module here? There are special high power lamps necessary, optimize the function in chilled airstreams. The multiple lamps are mainly required here based on the room and the airspeed here. And though this is, let's say, was an overview about all the application fields. Here you see, especially because the focus is here on the AirZing 5030, 5040, on certain application fields for open face devices. But of course, these are the same, also requiring closed fixtures, upper air fixtures, and so on. But the focus at the moment is on open offices, on doctor practices, on subway stations, public transport, hospitals, of course, hospitalities, schools, and entertainments. I mean, I don't know in detail the situation in Italy at the moment, but of course now there is also in the next days and also in the next week, asking how many should I not. Relying on regulations and standards now, which so okay, the recording stopped. Okay, I hope you can still hear me. Though we have still a lot of possibilities in terms of fixtures, in terms of installations, in terms of different application fields here for UVC technology. In conclusion, we know UVC is well known and well understood, has a long history, track record, and effective disinfection. The scientific basics of UVC germicidal efficiency are well understood. UVC helps to address the pandemic. It's a proof there for effectiveness of UVC against SARS-CoV-2. We have UVC helps mitigate impact of the current pandemic in several ways. UVC reduces the transmission risk of all airborne transmitted diseases. We know that UVC is effective, means UVC system can inhibit the airborne transmission route of SARS-CoV-2. UVC is a cost-effective technology complementary to mechanical ventilation. Surface UVC disinfection systems are an effective method to help reduce infection rates. And UVC is safe. Use of UVC is enabled by existing standards and new industry guidelines. So I think this is important to know. I mean, there is a risk, and I mentioned that there's a risk for the skin, even if it's not disappear. And if you don't have a long-term contact with UVC, it does not produce cancer automatically. But of course, especially for the eyes, UVC light can damage the surface tissue. The studies into accidental exposure show that symptoms tend to decrease within about a week. That's why, I mean, it's clear can, let's say, lead to much longer lasting problems. Therefore, a safe use of UVC is required. And also the question at what is not only the impact on people, on human skin or eyes and plants and also the effect on certain materials for exposure and so on. Here we also time tests, and maybe in a later stage we can provide the results. UVC can cause paints and other materials to fade and degrade over the time. Sensitive materials like plants should be removed from the areas of disinfection if we're talking about direct exposure. OSRAM research has addressed the effects of UVC on different material samples like leather, fabrics, and textiles, plastic, rubber, and PVC. And here only an example of a certain surface color after 1,000 hours. The surface color have no, even after that, no significant change, but always it's important, and more, let's say, external labs also making these tests, long-term tests about the effect of UVC on certain materials. Because it's also important, let's say, if you installed a kind of indirect or direct UVC fixture into a certain room. Also, the question is always, can UVC be reflected from ceiling and walls? Because also not all white paints on the wall and ceiling reflect radiation of UVC in the same way. Some of the have a reflectance of 8%, whilst others with metallic components can reach 47%. 47% by a way of comparison. White paint normally reflects between 70 and 90% of the light. Indirect radiation installations should use paint with lower UVC reflectance, though it's recommended to measure the installation prior to confirm it is safe for use for humans. So especially if we're talking about upper air installation, the reflectance of the paint of the ceilings or the material of the ceilings, it's important to know and to measure the reflectance rate here as well. And of course, there are, let's say, certain safety standards, regulations applying for UVC products in the moment. Here you see an overview, and also the Lighting Association, where OSRAM is a part of, is also always improving and precising the safety regulations here. So there means there are already safety regulations like EAC 55050 in place. And that's why if we make something, whether it's a module or a lamp, we also using this kind of regulations here. That means if you're using fixture or the module from OSRAM, lamp from OSRAM, always read and following the operating instruction and safety guidelines. Now, all the products need to design with the latest safety standards and appropriations. The warning should be communicated clearly by the manufacturer. Devices accessible to ordinary person require at least an structural safeguard, and second, a time safeguard or an equipment safeguard or a containment safeguard, which should reduce effective irradiation to below 1 milliwatt per square meter. Coming to the products from OSRAM, I know some of you have questions, maybe you can wait until the end. Yeah, I mean, OSRAM, let's say, bringing different UVC solution into the market. The clear focus is really on the component, on the lamp source here. We started in the last year already with the AirZing Pro 5030, 5040, which is, let's say, a lamp fitted on a surface here with the bases installed. Additional with a sensor and safety sensor here, who, let's say, shut off the lamp when somebody's moving, somebody's entering the room. This is clear. But also we launched already small home solutions like the AirZing UV Compact Pro for smaller rooms, or let's say you can put it into the cup holder of your car. And it also leads to a continuous air purification in cars and smaller rooms. As I said, we have certain business solutions with the AirZing Pro 5030, 5040. Sorry. And we have, let's say, our lamp portfolio, which I will show you a little bit in detail with our let's say, our EGNS lamp range. The Puritech UVC lamps, I don't want to go again through the slides here because this is all well known. It's, let's say, you know, there are several kinds of UVC lamps here based on mercury here. We are focused on low pressure mercury discharge lamps without a fluorescent coating, with a certain transparent UVC transparent long life coating to let's say to enable that as much as energy is coming out on UVC light is coming out of the lamp, it's made with soft glass tube. As I said, the single UVC peak is around 254 nanometer. It's not ozone generating, though there's no additional hazard of having ozone generating in the air. This is also tested in the special glass we are using, blocking the wavelengths which produce ozone in the air. And as I said, we have high efficiency. The 30% of the energy is transferred into UVC light here. That means the efficiency in general is 30% for this lamp technology, for our lamp range here. Therefore, we can say it's environmental friendly and high quality, long lifetime. We have a wide range of form factors. We also provide with our DS colleagues the perfect ballast, or at least we can show you what would be the right ballast here to fit to the lamp. We have already proved the performance of the lamp. That means always the target is to have let's say a reliable and constant performance over the lifetime here, which is shown here. And as I said, there's mercury inside, yes, but it's let's say lead-free, 100% rose conform, and we're talking about mercury levels of 1.3 milligram to 4.3 milligram, and this is even compared with the competitors, one of the lowest levels in the market here. Of course, variety of applications.
Sorry, Andre.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, but we are not seeing the presentation you are talking about. We just see the general presentation about DI at the moment.
Okay, what should I do?
I don't know. We don't use usually.
So you still this here, yeah?
Yeah, we are stopped at the thank you last page of the DI any presentation.
But the whole time?
While you were speaking about HNS lamp, yes.
When you shift to the H lamps.
Yeah, but how about the other presentation about UVC light and applications?
No, that was okay.
So at the moment, what did you? Sorry for that, because I'm not really familiar with Zoom. We're always using Teams here.
Yes.
So I mean, if I switch now to another presentation, you still see this here.
We are seeing the UVA right now and the thank you afterwards. This is what we are seeing.
Okay. So if somebody could give me an advice how to neue Freigabe, maybe just a second, maybe I switch to, and now?
Now is the Purity HNS long lifetime with the mercury and the kind of lamps. Okay, so we are.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry again for that. I don't know if I have to give a new release of my screen if I change here. At the moment okay, it's good. Always interrupt me, Anna, yeah? If something does not match, yeah? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is again the performance of our Puritech UVC lamps here. It's always our target to have a reliable performance here, low mercury content inside, and we have different form factors which is known from general lighting, fluorescent lamps here. So we have UVC lamps in the compact S design, single-ended, the compact L design, also single-ended, in the linear T5 lamps, and the linear T8 lamps. And of course, we also providing or recommending ballast from our DS colleagues within OSRAM, single and twin lamp ballast for a wide range of different lamps with high performance and lifetime, easy, quick and economic upgrade to energy efficient ECG operation, VDE accredited and so on. So we can also provide the ECG if it's required, of course. So that means this is an already established portfolio. We improved the portfolio in the last year, but still this is our main portfolio, starting from 4 watt to 95 watt for air, water and surface purification. So if I come back and help me if you can see it to the presentation, I don't know. So, okay, do you see now again this overview bringing UVC confidence, Hannah?
We are seeing it. It's the overview of the application.
Okay, then always if I change the presentation, I have to re-release my screen. Or okay. I know it's a little bit similar to Teams. Yeah, okay. Okay, good. This is, let's say, our portfolio of existing UVC solutions, whether it's on a small side, these kind of tiny fixtures here, and on the other side, the UVC lamps, but also our AirZing Pro 5030 and 5040. We have certain case studies already for our AirZing Pro 5040, 5030. Especially we have examples here where this installation was in hospitals in Portugal, and we were the first during the peak in the last year in China, in Wuhan, with our products. We have examples for installation of the AirZing 5040, 5030 in Harbin in China. Also equipped in restaurants, kindergartens, Shanghai, bus company, CT rooms, X-ray rooms. Here an example for an event hall in Kuala Lumpur, a bakery manufacturer in Malaysia. A lot of applications, but besides this, second, also where is it here? An example where manufacturers they use our AirZing, 3 of our but this can also show you that's a 5040, 3 pieces into enclosed fixtures. It's easy to install. We have the ECGs inside here, and it's easily to install. Though that means it's on the one hand a 5030, a 5040. It's, let's say, an complete standalone product with the, let's say, disadvantages, of course, of an open face fixture, but it can also use as a module for integration in fixtures. Yeah? So that means coming again to the AirZing Pro 5030 and 5040. We have 2 versions. I think all the details, technical details, we're using a 30 watt for the 5030 and a 36 watt for the 5040. So the main difference is, let's say, the UV power on the for 5040 is a bit higher than for the 5030. But of course, there are some other questions how to use this fixture as a standalone fixture in certain rooms for air and surface, let's say, disinfection. And therefore also a lot of questions came up here, how large should be the room using the AirZing fixture? How many should I use into a certain room space? So based on testing, one AirZing fixture can deactivate 90% of the microorganism in a room that is approximately 30 square cubic meters in 30 minutes, and a room of 60 cubic meters in 60 minutes. Of course, using multiple can allow for shorter with 2 fixtures and a 60 cubic meter room. Exposure time can be 30 minutes, from 60 minutes to 30 minutes. And of course, let's say it's often visible light. The further the light travels from the source, the less light energy it will have. So that means for the UVC, the amount of light energy, or we call it irradiance, at a particular distance, and the exposure times are the key components for calculating the UV dose. This I already mentioned before. UV dose is always UV exposure time multiplied by UV irradiance. And of course, for large space, a UVC radiometer could be helpful as a tool to accurately measure the amount of UVC irradiance in areas of the room from the furthest point in the room to the fixture. And that could be also helpful here. Here are some examples of calculating, and this I mentioned already, the disinfection in the room, the exposure time in the room. And this can be also accurately made in, let's say, in our calculator, which is available on the website of OSRAM. And here you can also use the distance from your device to the surface, and you can select the power of the lamp, and then it gives you the result of, let's say, the exposure time, for instance. Yeah. I mean, of course, this is always the question: how do I determine the number of fixtures I need for my space? I mean, as I said, general coverage of the AirZing fixtures approximately 12 to 15 square meter, with a recommended exposure time of 60 minutes. To treat a larger space or to decrease the recommended exposure time, additional fixtures can be used using the same guidance. And I think the examples I already mentioned here, 30 square meters and so on. Here again, I think more in a visual way, the AirZing can be ceiling mounted or wall mounted. The installation height of general space is between 2.5 meters to 4 meters. And as I said, the coverage area is meant here already. And this gives you an overview about the area, the minutes or the exposure time which is required, depending on the square meter in the room here, or the square meter you want to exposure. Yeah. What if my ceiling height is greater than the recommended installation height? And here again, with the ceiling height, may make more sense to wall it, the mount or the fixtures between 2.5 and 4 meters. And for a larger space, I think also here it's always necessary or better to use also a tool, a radiometer here, to measure the UVC light which is coming out of the fixture. And how long should I operate the AirZing to disinfect a surface in my application space? UVC is most effective on surface directly exposed to the UVC light. So it's important to note that soiled surfaces, porous materials, or recessed areas may not be disinfected. when determining the location for the AirZing fixture in the room, it may be helpful to consider the surfaces in the room that are higher priority. If we're talking of what about surface purification, if with higher priority for disinfection, such high contact areas, to ensure that the location of the fixture allows for direct exposure to the UVC light. Though the amount of exposure time needed to disinfect is based on the UV dose again, which is required for the targeted microorganism. I think there are tables always available on certain online platforms where we have an overview about certain microorganisms, yeast, viruses, bacteria, about the required dose to kill the bacteria here, and based on that, say also you're using, or the fixture you're using for the surface purification, the installation height, I mean the distance between surface and UVC light source, let's say, can calculate exposure time, which is required to kill a certain virus, bacteria. Of course, always question, how can I measure the UVC output of my open face fixture like the AirZing, though that I know it's properly working. Of course, there are both quantitative and qualitative methods. Quantitative, of course, always a UVC radiometer is the most accurate way to measure that. At a distance of 1 meter, the output of the AirZing 5030 should measure between 0.11 to 0.13 watt per square meter. If the reading is below that, the let's say lamp should be replaced here with a new lamp. I mean, UVC radiometers are available in the market for a certain range of features and prices. With data storing, of course, data storing models are always optimal here. Then they can be operated in the room without a person needing to be present to view the result live. Stored results can be reviewed after the chosen exposure time is completed. For models that do not store data, the person operating the radiometer must wear full protective clothing and UVC blocking eyewear to protect eyes and skin from the exposure during testing. And of course, there are also qualitative methods, so kind of testing cards, strips or dots available at lower cost that can be used as a qualitative measure of the UVC light exposure. That these cards can be placed within the space between light source and surface. And this test strip has an area which is sensitive to UV and will change color as an indicator of UVC exposure. And of course, as I mentioned already, UVC AirZing 5040, 5030 are equipped with the safety sensor here and a responsive IR motion sensor. When the fixture is turned on, the sensor provides a certain 30-second delay before energizing the lamp to allow the person operate or install the lamp to exit the room. After this 10-second warm-up time, if the sensor detects motion, it immediately turns off the fixture, and the fixture will not power back or on unless the fixture is shut off and then turned back on. And of course, this is let's say for professional use, and any UVC fixture like this should always be operated by a person who is trained and understands the precaution necessary to avoid UVC exposure to the skin and eyes. And always OSRAM, if you use the open face 5040, 5030 and the normal way, OSRAM always recommends a sign on the door outside the room to alert others avoid entering the UVC workspace. As I said already, OSRAM lamps or this kind of technology, low power with a peak emission of 245 nanometer, don't produce ozone, which is also be harmful for human lungs and respiratory functions. Ozone is only created when UVC radiation had a peak of 185 nanometer from this UVC complete range. This is blocked by the glass, so therefore our peak is only at 254 nanometer, and this wavelengths do not produce ozone. We have also in preparation for all our lamps, for all our fixtures, this ozone test. I think it's already done for and available for the AirZing 5030, 5040. It also shows for the customer that's really an ozone-free light source and ozone-free, let's say, device. Yeah. Okay, question, what electrical setup options are available and what do you recommend? The AirZing itself should always be installed by licensed electricians. It's also interesting or important to know that the UVC fixture should always be operated on their own circuit with an identifiable switch separated from the standard light switch, and should be properly labeled. Safety measures such as interlocking devices, lockouts, or safety switches are also highly recommended. Other options to allow additional electronic control of the exposure time could be helpful in some application. Mechanical or digital timers can be used, as well as more sophisticated control options. But this, you always have to talk to your electricians here if you want to install this as an independent open phase fixture in your application. Also, what should I do if the lamp breaks? Like, let's say, all the standard fluorescent lamps, compact fluorescent lamps, the UVC germicidal lamps contain mercury. If the lamp should break under any circumstances, let's say that's the same procedure apply and can be found online. It is definitely recommended that the air in the room be circulated and the fragments be picked up using firm cardboards or dustpan and sticky tape for all these small fragments. A vacuum should not be used for initial cleanup to avoid spreading of any mercury in the room. And as I said, the local disposal requirements, like for the standard general line fluorescent lamps or bulbs, should be followed. Is there of it won't accidentally fall out of fixture. Recommended for fixtures to be mounted where the activity is taking place that could result in the fixture being hit by an object, ball playing, etc. I think it's obvious. This is the moment. Yeah, there's also for, if you require for each device, whether it's 5040 or 5030, an official test and effectiveness report from the independent available here, where it shows also the minimum operation time for a 99% germ reduction here based on the certain bacteria and virus, including SARS-CoV-2, though this is also written in the report, and this report is available online or on request and can be. And yeah, I think this is in general all about UVC technology, different UVC regulations, different UVC something about our products here. What I did not include in the presentation here is the topic about concrete LEDs from OSRAM. And I mentioned already there are existing solutions from our colleagues from OSRAM Semiconductor. And this is worth for, I think, a separate presentation although from their side, but nevertheless, if we go into the application here, or I want to only give you a rough information, therefore I have to shift again the screen here. I don't know if you can see it. OSRAM Semiconductor already provide or launched. Is it visible, Anna?
We can see it.
Good. Then I'm familiar now with Zoom. They already launched in January two UVC OSLON LED modules here. The OSLON UV, one is a low power and one is a high. The OSLON UV 36, one with 42 milliwatt. The other one was 0.18 watt, which is 4.7 milliwatt. In the website here with all the application. If you have more detailed question about these two LED modules, and this is, let's say, reflecting also the standards in the markets. Of course, there are also, other manufacturers in the market for producing UVC LEDs with maybe a little bit longer tradition here than OSRAM Semiconductors. But at the end, you see here, this is, let's say, the performance of those two LEDs or LED modules here. Pricing and so on, you have to ask, and maybe this can be connected via Anna, our colleagues from OSRAM Semiconductor. Yeah. But only to give you an overview about the UVC LEDs within OSRAM here. At the end, we taking the whole UVC market still very serious, and we see a positive development in certain application. We see a positive development in the lamp, on the lamp side, on the requirement for lamps. And even if we have the feeling in the beginning of this calendar year that this whole UVC market is cooled down, we have certain signals from all over the world, from distributors, from OEMs, from end users, that there is still a big demand for UVC solutions, whether it's open, upper air fixture, closed fixtures, and there will be a positive development beside the whole SARS and COVID development. Of course, nobody knows what happened with this pandemic. Will there be new mutants and will there be a new peak again? We all hope not, that's clear. But I think this whole pandemic opened the eyes to everybody in this industry and also on the customer side, that there is a very effective solution out there, which is called UVC, which can be used to fight against this kind of pandemic, whether it's SARS or is it for all the other viruses. And therefore, we still believe in this technology, and that's why OSRAM is focused. Furthermore, it's on this technology, whether it's on the module side or on the component with LEDs or with, let's say, with lamps. And therefore, I think I will finish my presentation at this stage. Would like to thank you for your patience here. I hope that was a bit interesting for you, and I think now we have still time for questions, but how we should proceed here in this case.
Okay, Andrea, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it was very clear. I have some questions I collected here for you. So first questions about OSRAM market. You talk about mercury lamp. You talk about UV LED and every kind of XM lamps. For sure, there was an very important impact from the pandemic. And do you observe, OSRAM observes an important increase on consumption of UV devices? Do you have information about that?
Yes, I mean, there are certain independence report, which we of course checked in the last months, but also, let's say, even from our competitors, we have market estimations and market surveys and so on. What we experience is that, let's say, there was an increase in the whole system market. I mean, it's always difficult to find what is a system. Is it a complete closed fixture or something like that? But we saw already a huge increase in the system market. There are numbers here which says, okay, there was, especially for the air and surface disinfection market, an increase of 75% from 2019 to the end of 2020. Yeah, though, and we saw it also in all our daily work, especially in the last year. The question came up. The OEMs, let's say, contacted us. So I think there was a tremendous increase in consumption in fixtures.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question. Okay, you talk especially about direct sanitation, and AirZing is the right product. We saw with many information about that use. So the question is about you cite some tools for calculation and the Excel tools. Is it possible to have the tools?
Yeah, what I will do is I will send to Anna and to you the link, because I think since 2 weeks with this calculation tool is online. I mean, I have no problem to send you the Excel files, but I don't have now the link, or maybe I took too long now to get to the right site here. But there's already something available on the OSRAM site, and we will provide you the link afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I confirm that the calculator are available on the website, and afterwards I will share the link with you, Alberto, so you can share with your customer and those who take part.
So can you do that, Anna, for me?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, we have, because we have 2 calculation tools, as I said, one for the AirZing family and one for the
HNS, yes.
Portfolio of lamps.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Anna. And after we share with the tenders, but also with the other companies that are interested in the field. Our question is about so the indirect sanification, because okay, we have an example. You quote this HEAR disinfection, that is a module that integrate the AirZing, but in general, you just to know, because these are important for the company, you cite especially the compact SLT5 TA for air purification. What is the best of these? Because you talk about air, water, and surface. For air sanification integrated in for indirect sanification, what is the best for you, for companies to integrate?
For integrating this in HVAC installation.
Yeah. We talk about, because companies are working now, especially they manufacture lighting lamps, but they usually, someone use the direct sanification, so maybe AirZing could be the right one. But we have, I think, 50% that are working with indirect sanification, so they put the tube in the lamp, okay. We create a body in the lighting fixtures, and we want to put the tube in the structure, and after the air flow is in the body. So if you have a special suggestion in between the compact SLT5 or TA.
I mean, it's always depend, you know, all these different, let's say, lamp shapes, lamp designs. I mean, compact S, of course, it's the compact, let's say, the smallest range here in this lamp family. It's single-ended. The compact L, it's a bit larger, and then you have T5 with a smaller diameter, and then you have the T8 with a bigger diameter here, linear with double-ended. It depends always on the application. I mean, if it depends on, let's say, if you want to create a fixture, what is the size of the fixture? I mean, at the end, the main question is, what is the target group for the fixture? How big is the room? How big should be the fixture? That means how much volume, air volume you want to, let's say, purify per hour, yeah? And then at the end, that always something we can also, let's say, make a guidance for you. What is your fixture design? What, let's say, how much air you want to purify in a certain time frame? And then we can recommend, okay, it could be more efficient if you use two compact S lamps let's say, or two compact S lamps instead of one higher wattage T8 or T5 lamps, because the airstream inside of the fixture makes it more applicable for single-ended compact S lamps. It always depends on the fixture size and for what is the main application and the main room size which you targeted with this fixture. Though it's not so easy to say, okay, this one is for this better, for this better. It depends on the fixture size, yeah, and on the room, or let's say on the targeted target group here.
Okay. In case
if there are some specific questions, if one of the companies here in this round have more precise question, you can always contact me.
Okay, thank you very much. In case, okay, we limited the number of companies, but in case if we have some companies asking for validation or your opinion about, just give some
yeah, the good thing, let's say, if you have flow a longer distance on the lamp surface. It brings a little bit more efficiency in the whole purification process. But at the end, then the fixture is a bit larger. If you need more compact fixtures as a standalone version, which you move from one side or the other side of the room, maybe there's a limitation in the size of the fixture. Then it makes more sense, in order to have the same dosage, that means the same UVC energy, to use, let's say, 2-3 compact lamps, single lamp. Yeah. But this has to be discussed, let's say, individually.
Okay, thank you. So we in case put in contact with some companies, but with limited questions about that. And my final question about that, is there required a specific socket for the compact lamp, or regular socket are okay, or for the connection of the lamp?
all the sockets we talking about our lamps, or that means the bases we have, are all pure based on the general lighting fluorescent lamp. So we have what G20 as G5, G8, G5 for the T5 lamp, G13 for the T8 lamps. We have for the single-ended lamps 2G11, though these are all standard bases which require standard sockets.
Okay, but is just a standard socket, or it is specific for UV lamp?
No. The socket, it's the same.
Okay.
It's a different ECG.
Okay. Okay. I don't know, Antonella, if we will receive any over specific question. We are already running the 2 hours, so it's like the Formula 1 Grand Prix, so we are reaching the maximum time.
Any other question from the attendees?
Any more or not?
Any more?
Okay. So, okay. Also, I thanks Andrea and Anna for the support, and for sure OSRAM for this very long talk about this complementary part. So as I told at the beginning, so we thank you for the closing, Andrea, on the LEDs, because we started last year with the LEDs with your colleague, Italian colleague, on that, but it was very important to have some detail about also all your portfolio, about also the AirZing and UV tubes, and thank you very much for the initial overview about norms and about application for the UV technology on sanification. So I think we can share the video that we recorded, and also we ask Andrea what about that. So I don't know if you have any final remarks.
Yeah.
Or
here, and we will have, I think, a positive development here, and if standards, regulations, also from authorities is a complementary important technology to clean air, and especially, I mean, now
okay, we have just, Andrea, we have just problem connection just in the final part. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.